I'm off tomorrow morning at about 7 a.m. to a stag do in Czech, Prague. I'll be away for 3 days and I was thinking, there's no way I can be in Prague for the next 3 days and be there knowing that I haven't taken the Indian Chief Bobber Dark Horse on at least a proper day's ride somewhere. So the place I've picked today to go is 1 hour northeast from Ipswich. It's got one of the eeriest histories, full stop, in the UK. Known as locally as the lost city of Atlantis of East Anglia, Dunwich. What used to be one of the most important habitations in the entire country is now no more than a very small village. Very intrigued by this. Last time I went there was a few years ago and I really didn't understand the history of this place until someone told me about it. So I'll take you along with me on a day trip to Dunwich.
Quiet down just a minute, settle down and have another one. Cause you're tired of the game, never names, until you're undone. I hit the wall to the limit, start over like you just begun. I didn't lie to you because I never knew you. Only time will tell, only time will tell.
It's such a nice ride in, especially as the roads get smaller and smaller. So I've been going for about 50 minutes now. In front of me, I've reached the sea, as you can see. This is all Dunwich Heath around me. I think ahead of me, this is the remaining part of Dunwich Heath, but I've just checked on a map. Behind me is where the village of Dunwich and Dunwich Beach is, so that is where I want to head. And I think I'm right here. I've just noticed it's got to be about 10 miles away along the coast there as it meanders around. I'm sure that is Southwold in the distance. So somewhere between me and Southwold, somewhere there is the little village of Dunwich. This is incredible. Dunwich about 1,000 years ago, was one of the 10 largest settlements in the whole of England, and now it's got a population of about 126 people. This settlement was one of the key ports in England, and it all just vanished, it disappeared because of a number of floods that just washed the entire development away. But 1,000 years ago, you had churches, you had hospitals, you had monasteries, you had government buildings. It was a thriving place that was stinking rich. And there are only two things left here. I think there's a religious building over on the hill near the sea over there. And here, behind me, this is, as far as I can tell, an 800 to 900-year-old ruin of a chapel specifically used for lepers, because this was a leper colony. So the newer church here on my left-hand side, that's 200 years old. But in its place, about 900 to 1,000 years ago, that would have been the hospital for the lepers, separated from the rest of society. And behind me, still standing in ruin form, that's the chapel where the lepers would have worshipped. It's lovely weather today, so everything feels lovely and upbeat, but I can imagine grey, moody, bit of mist here in the churchyard. It would be an incredibly eerie place. It's incredible to think that this building survived. The last leper here was buried about 400 years ago, but this development, this chapel and the hospital next to it, that would have housed between 20 and 30 lepers. And they said when Dunwich was swallowed up by the sea and everything was destroyed, the people tried to save the chapel by getting any bits of stone and rock from the destroyed houses to rebuild the chapel. And that's why you see loads of different rocks on the side of the wall. That doesn't really make sense, but that's because these rocks would have been taken and these bits of stone from different buildings that had been destroyed in the storms. Forgot to say, that food in, I think it's called the Sale pub. Anyway, there's only one pub in Dunwich, so just get to Dunwich. There are almost no buildings at all, so you can't miss it. Delicious pub, about 400-year-old building, very, very atmospheric, and the perfect place to stop off while exploring this interesting little village. You can sense the feeling of community here. I love sitting in a pub and listening to what the locals are up to. I think it's got such a community feel that you can just walk into the pub if you're local and you don't even need to ask the barman what drink you want, because the barman immediately knows. You walk in and he's already pouring your pints or getting your glasses of wine ready. He knows every person in the village's order. And I was walking past a little car park, and there was a sign on the car park back there, and it said community car park donated to, I think, a deceased resident of Dunwich, and every penny that the car park makes, it goes back into Dunwich. So there's a little honesty box at the entrance of the car park. So you open the little wooden gate, you park in the car park, and then, well, I never have cash, unfortunately, not that I park there, but then you leave a few coins in the honesty box. What's another world out here? I love it when you find a surviving phone box and it's been turned into a little bookstore or something else. These are getting rarer and rarer. This always tells a lot about the kind of place you're at with what's inside a phone box. First of all, this is in incredibly good condition with none of the glass smashed. And then look at this, positive thoughts. This is amazing. It's nice to be important, but it's important to be nice. Stay positive, be nice to people you're with. Don't give up, you're not something. And then you can write your own little motivational quote there. Bicycle hire, script writing services, and this I'm especially interested in. Brillcast, comedy cleaning. Literally cannot understand what that is, but I love the sound of it. And then the kind of books that they're reading in Dunwich. And there it is, the sea that destroyed Dunwich. They think that Dunwich is probably around, in some form or another, 2,000 years old. And the reason they know that is because of all the stories the sea's hiding. There have been a number of research studies out there digging down into the layers below the sea to find out all of the clues. And it's just a treasure trove of stuff under there. The interesting thing is, the leper colony over there is a good 10-minute walk away, and they would always keep leper colonies and leper areas a significant distance away from built-up areas so no one else would catch leprosy. So that may well be one of the reasons that the leper chapel has survived, because very possibly all of Dunwich was out there in sea. And actually where I was, over at the leper chapel, that was the edge of Dunwich. It's incredible to think. One of England's 10 biggest habitations was out there, and one of the most important ports in England. All of the trade that would have come here from different countries, and that's why they call it the Atlantis of Suffolk. And for some geographical relativity, that, in the distance there, that's the upmarket seaside town of Southwold. I'm sure, someone tell me if I'm wrong, I'm sure you could walk that in an hour and a quarter, something like that. It can't be much more than 4 miles away from here. And straight ahead of me, across the sea, somewhere in the distance there, Amsterdam. And I'll wrap it up there. I've got to rush back home now and get ready for a weekend in Prague. So thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I really hope you enjoyed the video today. Have a brilliant week all, and I'll see you all in the next one.
Quiet down just a minute and settle down.